Hey, Book Dragons! Now, I know February's already started, but I'm here this month to bring you my first TBR. Now, first things first, TBR is to be read. So essentially, any reader's list of books that they want to read in the upcoming month, upcoming time frame, upcoming year, whatever. This month I was a little bit easier on myself because this is, well, my first month doing a TBR, and it's also really the first month I'm cranking into this whole book review channel situation thing, whatever you want to call it. But I've only given myself 4 books. I would like to read more. We'll have to see how that goes. In January I only managed to read like 1.5, but I don't care. They were good books and I'm happy. So the first book I want to read is the one that I started in January after I finished A Darker Shade of Magic, and that is The Help by Catherine Stockett. Now, as we can see, I'm already about halfway through the book, and so far this is amazing. This is definitely not YA. This is more of an adult-themed book, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it so far. Essentially, the whole idea behind the book is it takes place in 1960s, when there was still segregation within the U.S. Right now, as far as I've gotten, we're following 3 characters. Aibileen, a maid, Minnie, who is also a maid, and Miss Skeeter, who is a white lady, all in Jackson, Mississippi. We're following the story as Miss Skeeter has just graduated college, and she's trying to find her way in the journalism and writing world because that's what she went to college for. So she takes the idea of Miss Aibileen's dead son to write a book in the perspective of a black person during this time. Right now, like I said, I'm only about halfway through, and this book, by far, is really good. I really like the way it's written, especially with the fact that we have 3 women talking. And especially if you know Southern accents, they can be very rough, and I think the writing style is really interesting. The fact that she's given these 3 female characters all different voices, even if 2 of them are black, and they talk fairly similar. But I'm hoping to finish this one here soon, and then we can move on to our next book. But I like this one so far. The next book on my list, I have read this book 100 times. And I know a lot of you are probably thinking, well, why is she reading it again if she's already read it so many times? I love this series. And the thing is, the copies I read were all the American copy of this really famous book series that actually got me into reading, and a lot of people my age into reading. And that series is Harry Potter. Now, I'm going to start off with the first one, and Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Now, if you remember, the American title is actually Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, which means I have the British edition. I actually managed to find this one in Narita, which is in Japan, at a bookstore at the airport there. So I was super excited. They only had 2 books. They had the first one and the second one, Philosopher's Stone, Sorcerer's Stone, whatever, Chamber of Secrets. And I had to buy them. I have this problem where I want to own every single cover copy of this book series just because it holds such a special place in my heart as the series that got me reading a long time ago. I started reading this series when it first came to America back when I was in either 6th or 7th grade, and that's literally I think when it first came over, and I just fell in love. Now, the whole idea behind Harry Potter is it's a 7-book series, and through the entire series, we follow the character Harry Potter. In the first book, we are following Harry as he figures out who he is in the world, especially since when he was born, his parents died, somehow, mysteriously, in a car crash, and he ends up living with his aunt and uncle and his cousin Dudley, who were all muggles. If you've seen the movies or read the books at all, you know Harry, you're a wizard. And then we start the adventure off with his first year at Hogwarts, learning about magic, learning who he is, because that is an integral part to the entire series as the boy who lived. We'll get into that one. I am like really looking forward to reading this just because I love rereading this book, and it's going to be really interesting to actually read in the original language that it was written in, because obviously for the American version they had to make a lot of stipulations because the vocabulary between England and America is a little bit different. But I find it funny I'm going to be reading this because there's actually been a resurgence of Harry Potter here in Japan, and a lot of my students that I work with actually do know Harry Potter, and they like Harry Potter. At least they know the movies. But yeah, so Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. The next book I'm going to read, I want to read this month, is Carville, I don't know exactly how to say it, by Stephanie Garber. Now, from what I've read from the synopsis, which is kind of short, we're actually following a character named Scarlet Dragna, I don't know how to say it, Dragna, we're going to go with that one. And she and her sister have always wanted to go to Carville. In the story, her father actually sets her up with an arranged marriage, and it is now that she is going to go see Carville. The big thing is, I don't think her dad really wants her to do it, but her sister manages to get her there so they can experience Carville together. The way that the synopsis read, it sounds like this one's going to be very mystical and magical in the sense of, like, when you were a kid and going to the circus for the first time and seeing that, which I haven't been to a circus in a while, and I remember what it was like seeing them. And it also kind of has a tagline that follows a lot like the idea of Las Vegas, where, you know, what happens there stays there. I'm really interested to read this one just because of the premise of the idea, where there is magic and all this other stuff. And I mean, the cover's gorgeous, obviously. The back cover is just as gorgeous. But yeah. And just, I'm going to see if I can get swept away in this one like the synopsis promises, and I'll let you guys know as soon as I read it. Alright, the last and final book on my list is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. Now, if you recognize the name Marissa Meyer, she's actually written the Lunar Chronicles, which is Cinder, Scarlet, Crescent, Winter, Stars Above, and on the back here, hold on, Fairest. I will be doing reviews on those books. I have read them. I want to read them again because I actually thought they were absolutely fascinating, because the whole idea behind her writing is retelling a lot of these old, you know, stories that we know, like Cinderella and Rapunzel and, you know, Little Red Riding Hood and the Wolf and all that stuff. So I'm interested to see this one, because this one is the idea that there's a character named Catherine, and she lives in this town, and strangely enough, she is the favorite of the king. But she doesn't want anything to do with that. I mean, most women would jump at the opportunity to be a queen. She doesn't want to do that. Catherine actually wants to open a bakery, and her mom's just like, no, no. So the way the synopsis explained it is, apparently at the ball where she is to accept the king's proposal to marriage, she falls in love with the jest, or a jester. And she's never had feelings for the king, ever. I mean, she probably considers him a friend, but, you know, she doesn't feel anything towards him that would make her want to marry him. It sounds like with this jest character that she ends up actually feeling something towards him. And this is the first time she's probably ever contemplated even giving up her dream of owning the bakery, because she does actually love somebody, or that she potentially loves somebody. But Marissa Meyer's writing is fantastical. It's awesome. A lot of the other books that I read, well, her Lunar Chronicles, all take place in the future. So I don't know if this one's going to take place in the future like the other ones did, but we'll just have to see. But it's loosely based on the idea of Alice in Wonderland, because the kingdom is Wonderland again. I don't know if Alice is actually going to show up, but we'll take a peek and we'll find out together. Also, the cover. I mean, look at the cover. It's just gorgeous, isn't it? So, I'm totally excited for this one. I bought it over the summer when I was back in America visiting from Japan, and I'm just like super excited to read it. So, we'll get into this one hopefully this month. We'll see. So yeah, like I said, that is the end of my February TBR. Again, this is a very conservative pile compared to what other people would want to read in a month. But again, I'm kind of new at this. I do have a full-time job. I read when I can, and I'm trying to do a bunch of other stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if I get through all these books. If not, how far do I get? If I do I read any more? And what do I end up reading? But I'll keep you guys updated and just look out for the reviews as they come. So keep reading those books and burning through them like dragons. Bye, guys.